If you want to kill yourself, go right ahead. I won't even try to stop you.
Yes, first and foremost, I will say I have a new camera angle. Twitter. Everybody knows Twitter. Everybody knows Twitter at this point. It's become so ingrained in our lives that we're completely like inseparable from it. And the idea of Twitter drama has become so just like part of our lives that we're just always like looking forward to it, right? It's what's the next big hit? What's the next, who's gonna get hit next? And you know, some people, they're like, oh, are they gonna deserve it? Is it gonna be fake or is it gonna be real? It's arguably, you know, people they like getting mad at when like it's fake, but I think more so than anything, when it's actually real, it's more fun than anything. The problem with Twitter drama is that genuinely it is fun. So it's hard to sort of root around and figure out how it even came to be such like this large part of like the internet when it's just part of us at this point. I'm starting to feel that like the main things that actually led to Twitter being the way that it is polarization, it's centralization, and it's just the natural drive to gossip. Polarization. It's easy to forget, but back in the day, Twitter, it didn't always used to be like this. Twitter used to just be like this social media that's for you follow your favorite celebrity and then you get direct line from their dumbass opinions being fed through a tube into your feed so you can see it. I'm checking my Twitter. Oh, Kendrick Lamar just said he farted. That's the whole point of Twitter. It's so Twitter was based on like the celebrity culture. I mean, that's how it was in the 2010s. And then as time went on, certain events sort of occurred to move it away from that. You have whatever you want to call it. Some people say tribalism. Some people call it the cultural war. Some people call it the polarization. The polarization of everything. The idea of this rise in the us versus them mentality. Gamergate. Gamergate was this whole thing in which the idea of Gamergate being Gamergate, the fucking word means nothing. Gamergate occurred, I'd say maybe 2014, around that time, in which it was like this big thing, this big social media movement. Before everyone was arguing politics, before everyone was arguing religion, this whole big ordeal came about in which feminists came and said, gaming, the gaming industry, it's a direct pipeline. Let's get young men into the gaming industry and it'll directly feed them into the pipeline, into getting them into being misogynists, violent, hating women, all that stuff. The gaming, it appeals to the male fantasy, whatever. All that shit that people know about it, right? Really what all this led to is just I'd say before 2014, you'd have a couple, sites. On one side, you'd have forums for autistic girls, and on the other side, you'd have forums for autistic guys. And then after this, and like occasionally they'd butt heads together. They'd be like, let's go epically prank the girls by posting pictures of all their favorite cartoon characters kissing, and stupid shit like that. But when actual Gamergate stuff came out, it became sort of like they said, what? They were like, oh, what did they say? Let's get them. And so it turned into this thing where everyone's being like, that side is stupid and evil, and that side, and then the other side they're going, that side is stupid and evil. And so it became this sort of like tete-a-tete where it's just like us versus them. And so everybody on all the forums, they sort of had to pick a side in a way. And 2 years later, 2016 rolls around. The election. You know what I'm gonna say. Maybe the most heated the internet has ever been. Ever. Okay? You could say that it's maybe an understatement. It's maybe an understatement to even say that. So it became this thing in which Instead of it just being about forums of autistic girls and forums of autistic guys, it became about left-leaning autistic girls and right-leaning autistic guys. And that's what is sort of like, it was expected of people at the time. It just further drove in the nail, hammering it in. It's supposed to be us versus them. We're more and more polarized and divided. And those people over there are the bad guys, and they're trying to ruin everything. They're bad. That's how it is, right? Centralization. The next thing being centralization. I've talked about this a bit before in the brain rot video, but the idea of bringing people from various other sites and centralizing them into one place. Twitter was mainly a celebrity type place. You go there to see what your favorite celebrity's thinking. And 2014, 2016, it brought some people into it to instead give their opinions, to do all this stuff. And activism, that stuff, it became more of something like that, right? It became sort of a bit more fixated on things like that. But, next up, what happens next up, 2018, Tumblr bans NSFW art. I mean, it sounds silly to say, but it really did change the internet landscape in a big way, since Tumblr being like the hotbed for artists to, set up shop, suddenly like cuts off like a good fraction of its fucking user base from being able to do their thing. They have to find a new place to go, and when, half of them go somewhere, the rest is just gonna be like, I guess I'll just follow them. So they go from Tumblr to, where do you think? Twitter. It's bringing people towards this one place, is it's turning it less from a place that's meant to be for like keeping in touch with like big celebrity opinions to it can be a place for anyone to get like a user base that's like wants to get whatever they're putting out. And that's what Twitter is becoming because of it. And not too long after that, COVID. 2 years later, COVID hits. And what do you think COVID does? Everyone's locked down. Everyone's connected to the outside world through their social medias, waiting for, everyone's just on social media, talking. Most people were spending it on TikTok, but that's still, a pretty decent amount of people still also using Twitter. And so from there, what do you got? You have people stuck inside. The user base skyrockets, people spending time online skyrockets. This is how everyone's connecting to the outside world. And everything that was possibly going on has suddenly, it's like an amplifier. It's like a loud, like a bullhorn. So you've brought all the people from every sort of place, all the forums and everything more centralized into one social media gathering spot where they hate each other, basically. The user base hates each other and is constantly getting into arguments with each other. It's so strange. From this sort of interaction, this mix of things, it gave birth to like exposés. We need to make sure that people we don't like who do bad things, we need to make sure that they don't have a platform to spread their negative influence. And so all the good people we like can have a bigger platform to spread positive influence. Gossip. I don't know. It's something that people need to admit, really. It's not crazy that we're obsessed with gossip. We've been doing it for thousands of years. Someone getting exposed for doing something heinous is funny. It just is. I don't know how better to put it in words than that. It's like that one video.
How does it feel to have lived long enough to see all of your favorite franchises go down in flames?
Feels great.
That's what it's like. Some people, it's just like, you want to see burnt ashes, cinders. You want to see someone reach high up into a social ladder, successful and everything, and then see them fall down and hit their head and die. It's funny. There's no other better way to put it than that. I guess the issue really just starts to rise when there isn't any big thing happening and people want more. They're just gonna go look for more where it really isn't necessary. So that's when you start having like small, exposés in like a niche micro communities. This guy with 1,000 followers is an asshole. Let's dox him. It's just something that doesn't really make sense. I think that making a video about Twitter drama, it's something I'm having trouble wrapping my brain around it, because genuinely it's something that defies reason. I tried to understand it from where I stood, but then I got a bigger dosage of it. I'm like the frog in the well who only knows like what's right above him, that old saying. I went on Twitter and I saw some shit going on and I was like, oh, I don't understand this at all. It's something that completely baffles the mind because there is no rationality to it. It's something that you can't put words to. I tried to understand it by sort of like reverse engineering it, where you go to the end and then try to go back and see what led to it to sort of get it. But it's still tentative at best. Us versus them. Just through certain events, it led to like people being divided and like viewing each other as the enemy and operating in the same space together. It created this hostile environment, the most uninhabitable place to exist, and through that, it just turned into its own thing.